Ooh. That's so creamy. Also so bouncy. I would pay 2 times the price. It feels really cheap. Pretty gross. Oh, that's gonna get them sued. Here's a question. Why is this the most popular low-profile keyboard on Amazon? Why have almost 7,000 people spent $130 on this? Well, I went out and bought all of the most popular low-profile keyboards on Amazon from $30 to $130 so that I can tell you what I think of them. Why do you care what I think of them? Well, howdy hey, I'm Hipyo Tech and I try keyboards so you don't have to. Hundreds of them. And let's just get right into it. Now, first, we have the Keychron B1 Pro. And while I unbox this, you're probably also wondering, why would anybody want a low-profile keyboard? Well, in the past, some of these low-profile keyboards that I've looked at have been the creamiest and thockiest sounding keyboards. But for $39, I'm not really expecting much here. And whoa, it is very, very lightweight. Like, I can feel it flexing in my hands. And in the case, we've got the very basic guide with hotkeys, a cable, and a wireless dongle. But what is the actual keyboard like? Now, most of the keyboards in this video are gonna be mechanical, but 2 of them, weirdly, the cheapest and most expensive, are not gonna be mechanical. Oh God. This thing features a silicone cover, which I guess could be good if you're using this thing in a place that it could get dirty, as this is mostly marketed as a totally wireless, super lightweight alternative. It is incredibly flat. It is very, very lightweight and made out of plastic, making it, honestly, I was gonna say pretty cheap, but I feel like they've done a decent job at making it lightweight but hefty where it matters, except for these corners. Like, these are razor thin and feel like the weakest link of the keyboard. But what do we think? Oh, the silicone cover has to go. That's pretty terrible. But the actual board itself, it feels like a bad laptop keyboard in probably the worst way possible. Now, some of you really like typing on a MacBook keyboard. I would argue that MacBook keyboards do feel pretty satisfying and kind of one of the main reasons why I like lower profile keyboards, as a shorter travel distance to press your key could be super duper desirable for a lot of people. This, however, 39 bucks, it feels like it. It feels really cheap. You're getting some bells and whistles like 2.4 gigahertz wireless. You're not getting RGB. You're not even getting a decent typing experience. It just feels almost like you need to put way too much force on these. So the cheapest low profile keyboard, there's a reason it's this cheap. Let's just get that one out of here and move on to the next one. Now, this is one I'm actually pretty excited for because Royal Kludge does make some really decent gaming keyboards nowadays. However, this is the Royal Kludge N80, a low profile, not really gaming keyboard. They're kind of making this one just for the average person, and most of you are probably the average person. Also, the other thing that's crazy, this one is only $59.99. If it's even slightly decent, this could be pretty big, as most other really good low profile keyboards sit around the $100 price point. Let's go ahead and find out, I suppose. Now, in the box, oh, it already feels substantially heavier. You can set that to the side and take a gander here. A cable, keycap and switch puller, 4 switches, and something that I definitely shouldn't eat. Now, I wasn't expecting anything to write home about. They do actually give you a pretty big manual, which I guess would be great if you get this for like your grandma or somebody with eyesight impairment. But what do we think of the actual keyboard? And as I look at real mechanical keyboards now, there's a couple things I want to look for. We've got build quality, we've got sound quality. We also want to take a look at the switches to figure out, are they smooth to type on? Do they have a nice tactile feel? Do they thock? And this has a knob and a screen? Yeah. This thing has a screen and a knob, which is kind of insane, built into one, and this is the cheapest mechanical keyboard on this list. We've got a 2.4 gigahertz wireless dongle at the top that sits right into the case, and it is pretty low profile, although maybe not the lowest profile keyboard that I've seen. It feels like it weighs a lot, so let's just see. Around 910 grams, which does make this thing relatively heavy. Like, just for reference, this first keyboard that we looked at comes in at 433 grams. So this is more than double this super lightweight thin keyboard. If your goal is to put this thing in your backpack and travel around with it, it's about half a pound. Now, I really like the color scheme that they've gone with on this, with pretty nice looking keycaps. Nothing about this screams gamery. You even do have dual stage flippy feet on the back, meaning that, guess what? You can flip this thing to make it not low profile, I guess, or help your typing angle. Maybe you just want the low profile keycaps. If I turn it on, it's got full RGB, it has a screen, and the screen is currently controlling volume, or if I click it, I can switch modes. Is it a touchscreen? There's no way it's a touchscreen, right? It's janky, but it's technically a knob. Also, if you treat it like a real knob, you actually end up hitting the F12 key basically every time, so you'd have to use it as like a side knob, which is a little bit of a bummer. But in general, this thing does look and feel kind of nice for 60 bucks. None of that matters, however, if it sucks. And I can tell you just based off my first little bit of typing on it on accident, it's really clacky. It's not bad. The switches have a slightly scratchy tactile feel, as I decided to opt for the tactile switches on this one. So the switches are, let me just pull off. So the switches are browns, which means that when you press them, there's a little bit of a tactile bump. They feel lubed, but kind of just clacky and pingy. I have felt a lot of really good low profile keyboard switches, specifically from K0, which we'll be looking at later in this video. Now, it is a $60 keyboard. It does have RGB and a cute little knob that you can adjust your volume with, but it's fine. I think at this price point, I would say save your money and go for something else. And let's look at something else. Now, we've already looked at a Keychron keyboard. That was the Keychron B1, the super thin, not even mechanical keyboard style one. But what if you wanted something weird? This is a low profile numpad. For all of you that might have a low profile keyboard, like some of these 75% that we're gonna be looking at later, but you want a separate numpad. It comes in at around 64 US dollars, but is it any good? Now, you also might be wondering, does Keychron make any other good low profile keyboards? And this will kind of help me evaluate whether or not their switches and build quality are good. In general, the unboxing experience is actually markedly better than the B1. You've got nicer foams in here. You do have a braided USB-C cable, which feels much nicer. It's gonna be harder for your cat to bite through it. You get a screwdriver, a keycap and switch puller, and a nicer wireless dongle. So they've clearly stepped up their game here just by doubling the price, which that is a bit crazy to think that it's almost double the price. Then you have the Keychron K0 Max knob version, which has a nice aluminum case and then a basic plastic bottom. It's got 4 little tiny rubber feet, and it is incredibly cute and potentially really useful actually. It's got 5 extra macro keys on the side and then a full number pad, meaning that you could put this thing on the right of your keyboard and have that full number pad access. Ooh, I just typed on it. We'll get back to that. You could have it on either side of your keyboard and benefit from these macro keys, although this might throw off your muscle memory pretty bad. So it would take some getting used to. In general, the aesthetic of this thing is really elegant and clean. I can't complain. It's got Epic Gamer RGB, which is kind of hard to see, but pretty nice. But the aesthetic of the keyboard is not Epic Gamer. The knob is made out of aluminum and feels really nice to turn, which you could adjust your volume. This thing is also fully reprogrammable, meaning that you could make this whole entire thing a macro pad. And for 64 bucks, it's pretty versatile. Now, the one thing I'm not super duper sold on is these switches. These are the banana tactiles. And while they do feel like decently lubed keyboard switches, you aren't getting a super great experience from this thing with it feeling like... I was definitely hoping for more here from the typing sound, but overall it is pretty useful and you could swap out these switches for other low profile switches. But would I buy a full keyboard of these switches for markedly more? No, I don't think I would. But it could be really useful if you just want a fun macro pad and don't care about how your keyboard sounds or feels. Now let's take everything we learned from the $64 and under price point and then double the price. Because the next keyboard comes in at 119 US dollars and is from my favorite low profile keyboard brand, Lofree. This is one I have not tried yet. I have tried their Lofree Flow, but this is the Lofree Flow Lite. Is it any good? Well, for it to be good, it's gonna need to sound and feel better, offer similarly good features, and be a generally good keyboard. Now the unboxing experience, this is by far the most bare bones unboxing with just a cable. Not much fancy other frills here, but they could have a good redemption arc if the keyboard itself is solid. And whoa, the other Lofree keyboards that I looked at were full aluminum, and this is unapologetically plastic, making it incredibly lightweight, potentially even really good for traveling because it sits at 662 grams, making it lighter than the Royal Kludge keyboard by quite a bit, despite it having a number pad. That's pretty cool. It only has single stage flippy feet, but I do really like these rubber bottoms. It has a place to keep its USB dongle, and it even does have a switch for swapping to wired and wireless modes. Although, oh, it only has white LEDs that look pretty gross when shining through the board. So honestly, I would want the LEDs off on this thing because they opted for really gross shine through keycaps. Now, this is a keyboard that I think is a bit weird because it's sitting at a price point $20 cheaper than its own upgraded version. For $139.99, you can get this board in full aluminum, missing a knob with potentially better switches, although interestingly worse design choices where you don't have somewhere to put your USB dongle and you don't have flippy feet. Check out my video on the regular Lofree flow and that will apply to that. But let's see, if I bought this keyboard, how is it gonna feel to type on? Really, really good. Like, you could probably notice just even the sound difference between this one and the previous one. Like, granted, this is 2 times the price, but for me, like, versus, that's night and day. I would pay 2 times the price for that much of a better sound and typing experience. But maybe it gets better throughout the video. What makes it sound so much nicer? Well, in this case, it is my favorite kind of low profile switch. There are actually multiple really good low profile switches, but they've opted for K0 switches, which are made out of palm, a material that does sound really, really good and creamy and thocky, absolutely lovely. They've also just been lubed really well, and K0 knows exactly what they're doing in the low profile switch space. Nowadays, they used to kind of suck. This does mean, however, you can only replace it with other K0 low profile switches, making it a decently closed ecosystem, which is the problem with a lot of low profile keyboards, but hopefully you know what you're getting into with that. So for $119.99, this thing is pretty decent. It's got a good typing experience. That's a questionable build quality with a very nice knob, and it is a substantial step up from some of those other keyboards. But what if it got a lot better for basically the same price? That's what I'm thinking with these two. Now, it's also worth mentioning the iQnix low profile keyboards, because those are some of my favorite. However, they're also not the cheapest. If you take a look at my videos on those, the MQ80 and the Magic 65, you can see my full reviews on those keyboards. And I'm even looking at one next week. But because of the price difference on the iQnix keyboards, while they are the best for typing and sound, spending 40 to 50 bucks more for that might not be up your alley, so let's focus more on budget. But we still have 3 keyboards left, and the most popular one from Amazon, the Logitech. And for the same exact price of $119.95, we've got the Kick, get it, 75 from Nuphy. Now, Nuphy used to dominate the low profile keyboard space. That is until Lofree and all of these other brands made low profile keyboards. And y'all kept telling me to try this keyboard, and actually I already have, and I did a collab with Rage Elixir. I'll have that link down in the description if you want to see me review a lot of these similar keyboards. Now, the Kick 75 is obviously retro inspired with a retro aesthetic even baked into the box art. So from the start, this is a very fun unboxing experience. But this one did surprise me, so I actually went out and bought it again. Yeah, this was an expensive video. Now, the first thing I notice, oh, that's gonna get them sued, is these 8-bit Odyssey stickers with definitely Pokeball copyright stuff. Nuphy, you guys don't want Nintendo to see this. You will be doomed. And really, really cute branding, actually, overall. We've got a quick guide. We've got a Q&A. And the one thing that Nuphy does really, really well is their branding, their aesthetics. They do have some of the prettiest, most marketable keyboards. Now, as far as the accessories go, we've got a cool, fun flap with a really pretty cable, a really pretty keycap and switch puller, and extra Mac keycaps, which is really nice. When we look at the board itself, that's where I think this one wins the aesthetic battle. Personally, this is like one of the prettiest low profile keyboards I have ever seen. It has this really nice semi-frosted plastic look with a cool silicone accent here. You also have this absolutely beautiful pixel art on the back and a knob that's a cool knob. It's a thing like me, I'm a cool knob. This is a board that just feels cool to have on your desk. Unlike the other ones that were kind of devoid of substance and really, really lame, they have done the work here to make an aesthetically beautiful keyboard that is even easy to take apart with these screws on the bottom, which can't be said about most of those other keyboards. You've got flippy feet, you've got a Windows and a Mac switch, if you switch between the two, and it seems like Mac is kind of the default here for Nuphy. Now, Nuphy has had some controversy with some of their other keyboards. I've personally had multiple of their keyboards die on me, which kind of sucks. And this does have one of the lowest reviews on Amazon, sitting around 4.3, which makes it a little bit more questionable long-term, but it is really, really pretty. They've got nice accent keycaps, and it does weigh 847 grams, making it a similar weight to the Royal Kludge, but a lot heavier than the Lofree. As far as the typing feel, it's really nice. It's super duper creamy, and actually a huge step up from some of the other low profile Nuphy keyboards that I've tried, because those sounded pretty clacky and a little bit lame, very similar to the Royal Kludge one. Now the stabilizers are a little bit meh with bad lubing on them, but overall this thing is very nice to type on. It looks really pretty. It's got a fun aesthetic, but who knows if Nuphy is the most reliable. The volume knob is very cool, and the software is just a web app rather than a download, which does make it better than some of the sketchier other softwares, but nowhere near as good as VIA. But I would say for 119 bucks, this is a more fun experience than the Lofree, albeit a very specific tight niche and no number pad, of course. And I'm also curious, if you want an in-depth review of any of these keyboards, leave a comment down below, because maybe I'll do one on the most popular keyboard of this bunch. Now, the runner-up here is the Melgeek at $129.99, putting it at the same price as this Logitech board over here. Now, these are all still a lot cheaper than some of the more premium offerings from Lofree and Icunix, and this one already feels very like Apple-y in its unboxing and presentation. Very, very straightforward. It's got the nice slide out. As far as accessories go, I mean, got a cable, got a weird dongle extender thingy, which is honestly kind of a nice touch. I like the colored insert on the cable. You've got a 2.4 gigahertz dongle, a keycap puller, but not a switch puller, and a bunch of spare keycaps. Now, all of this is totally fine. For 139 bucks, this does put it at the same exact price as the Lofree Flow 100 aluminum version. And this keyboard is clearly not aluminum, but as you can see here, oh my gosh, this is, oh, the worst peel of my life. It keeps tearing. Editor cut, just cut this out. Now, the Melgeek O2 is very, very plastic, but also a little bit acrylic with this very cool band wrapping around the whole keyboard. This kind of gives it like a super futuristic, like if Apple and NASA had a collab, which honestly, kind of here for it. The colors are very nice, the accents are good. It does feel incredibly light, not aluminum unfortunately, making it 650 grams tied with the Lofree, which wow, that really means the Lofree is so, so light. One thing that is super duper weird about this keyboard is your escape key is really big and non-standard, and so is your delete key up at the top, making it that you might kind of get confused with muscle memory, and also you're not replacing these with other low profile keycaps. That is for sure. Nobody is making a replacement set for these. This is a 75% with a super compact smushed layout, not an exploded layout like some of the other keyboards, but they also do have some really nice sub-legends baked into them, like your volume key and your skip next track key, so that if you use your function row, you know what you're actually going to be hitting. This is something that weirdly Marques Brownlee has decided is the top reason that he would want a certain keyboard, is because he's got so used to his Keychron having these. Kind of a weird thing to think about, but kind of cool. It just goes to show you that everyone has a different thing or reason that they want a keyboard or a certain feature. It's all subjective. But how does this keyboard sound? How does it feel? This also has Kale switches, my favorite switches from the Lofree keyboards. And, oh my God. Whoa, it's also so bouncy. Does this have a gasket mount in it? Yeah, this thing is gasket mounted, which kind of gives it a very nice flex when you're typing on it. And this has the best sound and feel by an insane margin, in my opinion. Like, that is so good, so creamy, And that is the reason that most people gravitate towards low profile keyboards like this. And oh, it does have LEDs. Now, unfortunately, when you do plug this thing in, you are working with Melgeek software, which is probably the middle to worst of the whole entire bunch, making reprogramming this thing very doable, but very annoying and clunky. So it's a pretty decent keyboard in the fact that it sounds and feels the absolute best of all of these, but you are still making compromises, which is actually the trend with almost every low profile keyboard lately, because it's still a very new field of keyboards, very ripe for competition. But overall, this thing is like really nice. Like, that's so creamy. That is so creamy. Final keyboard. This is the one you might have all been waiting for to figure out my opinion on it. This is the Logitech MX Keys S, the most purchased low profile keyboard on Amazon and the most reviewed, with almost 7,000 people rating this like 4.5-ish stars, which is really glowing reviews. Now, this is a keyboard that fits a totally different niche of people. This fits the niche of people that want a keyboard like the Apple keyboard, but don't want the Apple keyboard. They have this marketed towards creatives and just general people, and let's find out if it's any good, because it is actually reasonably priced at $130 US, making it the same exact price as the O2, and the unboxing experience is very, very bare bones, but potentially environmentally friendly, because they have the instructions printed on the box, they have the keyboard wrapped in paper instead of plastic, and whoa, it feels really hefty. It kind of feels like unwrapping a present. In the box, you get a dongle, you get a cable, you don't get a keycap or switch puller or anything else here. That wouldn't be expected, because this is not a traditional keyboard. This is gonna be the same thing like the very first super duper cheap keyboard we looked at. It is ridiculously flat, very, very low profile. However, you do have this massive chin on the bottom of this thing, or maybe call it like a rump or a forehead. This is where all of the battery and extra stuff is happening in the board. It is kind of a fun look. And when you turn it on, you also get LEDs. Now, judging this based on the fact that it is a keyboard for totally different kinds of people, it does make me wonder, what features is this actually providing? Now, Logitech says you get great features like programmable keys and comfort and stability and fluid, precise, advanced. From what I can tell, these are mostly standard scissor switches, but to their credit, they do feel a little bit precise, but honestly, not very good. It's kind of mimicking that laptop feel very similar to the first keyboard, but in a way that doesn't feel satisfying to type on whatsoever. You get a little bit of bouncy pushback, making it so that instead of getting travel distance, you just get weird bumpy resistance, kind of eliminating all of the perks for a low profile keyboard for me, as typing on this thing feels just as fatiguing as typing on a regular mechanical keyboard. Now, with all of that being said, your customization here is literally none. Your board itself is actually built, what I would say, decently well, with a really nice chunk of aluminum being your top case, just a solid plastic back to make it relatively lightweight, and the whole thing coming in at 812 grams. So none of these came in at above 1,000 grams. But that ultimately leaves me wondering why people would buy this keyboard. I have a couple different hypotheses. Now, number one is that it's Logitech. It's a brand where people know the name of the brand. It's not like Nuphy or Melgeek or Keychron, where it's all just like, what is this brand? Why is it Chinese? I don't like anything from China. And I guess to their credit, like, you would have Logitech's support and warranty, which in my experience has been pretty decent, but in some people's experience, really bad. And the keycaps here have really nice scoops. I do see maybe a benefit for somebody to type on this thing, and that it takes up almost zero desk space. It has a nice number pad. It has all these extra symbols, and it has Logitech support, but then it also has a criminally long and skinny escape key that I personally don't think I could ever get used to. This is really, 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 really annoying. And honestly, to me, the keycaps themselves are so smooth that I kind of find myself getting lost on this keyboard. Like, even knowing from muscle memory where keycaps are supposed to be, this thing probably wouldn't help me be more productive. And while it is a totally fine keyboard, I think spending 130 bucks on this would leave me really bummed out. Okay, post video note, literally just filming, the rubber foot came off, which is a little bit of a bummer. And that sucks. Because the Keychron board did almost all of the exact same things at a way cheaper price. Which just goes to show you, keyboards have changed a lot recently. The most popular keyboard is not necessarily the best, and definitely might not fit your needs or preferences or desires. And ultimately, if you were looking for one best keyboard out of this list, the answer is there isn't one. The best keyboard is the keyboard that fits your preferences, but hopefully from all of what I've told you, you can make a slightly educated decision to find the keyboard that fits you the best. And if you want to find the keyboard that fits you the best, well then howdy hey, you've come to the right place. You know what to do. Subscribe.